Just 2 weeks ago now, as you know, we did T0 here.
Yeah.
And I'm happy we did that. You know, some people would say T0 won't deliver any extra profit, but I mean, when you have a large acreage, it's important to have, you know, have your T0 out there, because it just gives you a bit of flexibility. And you know, there are some years that it may actually deliver a little bit more.
Well, based on the plan we would have had, we'll proceed, I think, as we had hoped, I suppose, in that we'll be looking at 3 hours again at the T1. We would have had a little bit of question just leading in from last year which triazole partner we'd go with this year. And we now have 2 years of trials data, as we'll discuss later in the yard, leading to the conclusion we're going to make in terms of product choice. We're going to go for Varian, as opposed to last year we would have used a degree of Gleam. Part of that is variety choice, part of it is Septoria performance. This is probably the most advanced plant I've found in the field, and as you can see, our leaf 3 is just starting to come up there to the centre of the plant. So we're probably still looking at, as we would have projected, everything works backwards. Normally for ourselves, as you know, this part of the country, we're putting on the T1. Early would be 20th of April, normal would be around the 24th, and that leads back, ideally, in a perfect world, if such a thing happens in farming, from a T1 timing of flag leaf. So pick an average date, it's going to be the 15th of May. Some years we've had it down here at the 10th. Other parts of the country further up, maybe as far on as the 20th of May. But I'd say at the moment we can make a decision based on what's in the base of the plant in terms of levels of Septoria and mildew. I also focus probably more heavily on the T1 than some people might do. The reason for that being, as we know with what's happening with Septoria mutations out there as it's evolving. Yes, the T2 fungicide on the flag leaf generates the maximum yield, but if the T1 is wrong, it doesn't allow the T2 to perform anymore. And that's why I placed more focus maybe on getting the T1 right, even though again it's not going to produce your maximum yield kick. It's another key link in the foundation. We'd say it's a bit like putting the steel in the foundation, shall we say.
Okay.
Now, because it's Avatar, and because to date what we've done with the T0, the fielder, we've Bravo to hold the Septoria, and the Thalius element has held back the mildew, but Avatar is very, very prone to mildew. So I think now if we use, I had contemplated looking at Rubric as the partner, but
Sure.
I think we're going to run with Varian.
Okay.
The reason being, we now have, as I said, we discussed it in the trials, we've gone through it. We originally would have promoted quite strongly the 2 litres of Trioris plus 2 litres of Gleam as the T1 in winter wheat. What we're now looking at after 2 consecutive years of trials, where actually just the straight Rubric has beaten the co-formulation of metconazole plus epoxyconazole. Now it doesn't have to be Rubric, it's any formulation of epoxyconazole, the same can be said of it. But the Varian product, which is based on Prochlorus, Folicure and Thalius, is actually bringing up performance to another degree as well. Exactly why, we can't specifically say. You can speculate it's one of 3 things, whether it's a combination of the 2 specific products, Prochlorus and Folicure, and Prochlorus does seem to give a broader scope of Septoria control than some of the products. It's been performing now for a number of years, but also the fact that Thalius is in there. When Thalius would have been launched, it actually spoke about aspects of bringing additional levels of Septoria control to the plant. Now what it's actually doing is it's turning on the plant's inherent defence mechanism against the disease. When Thalius was launched nigh on 10-12 years ago, those kind of little add-ons, as you know, didn't matter, because 10-12 years ago we were getting spotlessly clean crops of winter wheat because all the fungicide chemistry was performing. Now that we have triazole performance dropping so far, all those little add-ons are suddenly becoming significant. So having Thalius in now twice in the programme, in the T0 and in the T1, and admittedly we've only used it in the T0 because it's Avatar and it's so mildew prone, that's helping us get an increased level of performance from the overall programme. On the nitrogen, you're at 160 kilos of nitrogen per hectare at the moment. Your main split, you utilised liquid nitrogen this year. How has that gone for you, and what do you see as the advantages so far?
Yeah, I mean it's a new thing, and it was thanks to yourself, Turchem, that we got introduced to it. So I suppose Enda McDonald has been fountain knowledge on it because it's all new to me, you know. And you know, Grassland Agro, I suppose they're innovators in a way, in that, you know, it's the first I've come across people bringing in liquid nitrogen, and have to say I've treated almost 180 acres of barley with it, and going on first thoughts on it, I'll be using it again. So I think we may have a new trick up our sleeves with liquid nitrogen. Being involved with Turchem has been interesting in that, you know, we talked earlier about how we're now switched one of the blocks of land over to liquid nitrogen, and that wouldn't have happened without TerraChem, introducing me to certain key people involved. I suppose, i.e., in the McDonald and Grassland Agro, but also, I suppose, the independent trials. Independent is a big word, and it is very important to get independent trials, because trials can be manipulated, to give certain results for certain companies, whereas these trials are independent, and it's been great to be able to have access to that. So some of the range that TerraChem offers are, the likes of some of their trace element products, and like a lot of land, and it would have all the right trace element levels, but they may not always be available. So sometimes we like to supplement that, and even land that doesn't have the right amount of trace elements, you can actually top it up with the trace elements from TerraChem, and we've got some very good results over a lot of different types of soil, where there were certain deficiencies in trace elements. So very happy with those products over the last few years, yeah.